All right, we are live on YouTube, and I'm getting Facebook set up here. All right, almost ready. Here we go. All right, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. It's good to be back. Another Thursday. Did we make it? I don't think we did. 8:08. One of our better days.
Not bad.
One of our better days for sure. Again, we're the WatchWell Podcast, live every Thursday at 8 p.m. or 8:10 or 7:50 or whenever we can get on.
Or 8:15
Or
sometimes.
8:15, 8:20. Yeah. I think the latest was what, 8:30?
I think we did do an 8:31. Yeah.
Yeah.
8:45 one week. I think.
8:45. Man, we are just terrible at this. Just awful.
Well, we know that all you guys watching really care about that. So
Yeah. Well, tonight is going to be fun. So we're kind of taking a step back from super deep theological concepts, and we're going to talk more about movies tonight. And the topic is movies from the 70s. So
No. Movies from the 70s isn't today.
Oh, no?
No, it's the 12 questions, remember?
Oh, the 12. I'm sorry. I've got the wrong thing pulled up.
Yeah, 70s will come. Some 70s will come.
70s will come. Sorry. Spoiler alert. Nick, I don't know if I actually have that one then.
It's on the WatchWell
Is it?
Google Drive.
Okay. How about you do the intro, and I will try to pull that up real quick.
Yeah,
I'm so
sounds
sorry.
good. So I'm going to try to pick up from where you left off. Again, we're the WatchWell Podcast. We're going to talk about a ebook, a section of an ebook from a theologian and professor at Westminster, or I don't know if he still is or not, but from Westminster Theological Seminary. He has an ebook called Theology at the Movies. And in that book, and I believe it's chapter 3, he writes 12 questions that you should ask of every film that you see. So we're going to talk through those questions and maybe provide some of our own thoughts and maybe examples of how we've done that in the podcast. How have we answered these questions in the podcast in the past on, things like that. So we're going to look at that. But first, we haven't introduced each other yet. So I am Nick. This is producer Brody over here to the side, giving you the peace sign. And then we have Parker trying to scramble to get his documents pulled up and make sure everything works well. He's got it ready to go.
I was a week ahead. I apologize.
Yep. And so obviously follow us on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, subscribe to our channel there. And then you can also subscribe and listen at any of the podcast podcast aggregator. Is that a right term? What are they called? Podcast service? What
streaming platform?
Platform. Yeah, you can. We're on all of everything you can think of. We're on all of those. And then just for those of you that might not know, if you listen on Google Podcast, that is actually going away. I don't know if you guys know this either, but Google is doing away with Google Podcasts, and everything is transferring over to YouTube Music.
Oh wow!
So they're moving everything over to YouTube Music, I think, at the beginning of the year. So
it's kind of a smart move, though.
Yeah, if you're used to listening on Google Podcasts, you'll have to move over to YouTube Music, and I think your subscriptions are supposed to stay, so you shouldn't have to subscribe again or follow us again there, but you will have to change the platform you use. All right, we got some comments.
That's right. We do have comments.
Yep, and we might even have more than this, but we have 3 ready to go right here from several of the content that's been put out. And this first one was from the Jelly Roll video. So for those that don't know, we did a response to a segment of an interview with Jelly Roll talking about Jesus and judgment and all of that. And so here is Sandra Geisler or Gisler. I don't know how to say the whole name, but she says, right, repent of our sins, turn away from sin, get to know Jesus through his word, Jesus loves the sinner but hates the sin. We really need to understand this. We can't live in sin. Lord Jesus, thank you for your mercy and grace on us. And then 2 hearts after that. So what guys' thoughts? First, thank you to Sandra for the comment. Thank you for engaging.
Right. So we have a few viewers. Backstory on this. I don't want to jump on this, but like you said, this was a response to a YouTube short that we did. So this comment was on a YouTube short of us responding to comments made by Jelly Roll. And Jelly Roll talked about in that YouTube short, or in that podcast that he was in, he talked about how people were judging his wife, and then he talked about how, Jesus was a guy who had 12 thugs. These are the words that he used. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but the gist of what he was saying, Jesus had 12 thugs that he rolled around with. He was kind of like equating it to a biker gang, and he protected town whores, and he did all of this. And then he moved from that, and he postured that Jesus protected town whores, but then Christian women, those kind of Christian women, his words, are the first to persecute his wife. And a little bit of backstory, I think I found out later that him and his wife have an open marriage, and that's where this was coming from. So the gist or the point of our YouTube short was to say that when Christians, like, we were kind of wrestling with this because when we were responding to it, we didn't really know his relationship and the details and where he was, like, his angst or his feeling of injustice was coming from. So we were trying to be a little soft-hearted about it. And our YouTube short was directed at the fact that when a Christian tells someone to repent, that's actually the loving thing to do. That's not persecution. However, if a Christian is judging someone post a repentant heart, or someone who is trying to be sanctified and doing their best to be obedient to the word, then that would obviously be a form of sinful judgment, and that would be hypocrisy, essentially, right? That would be, we would all stand in arms together and against that. So that's kind of the backstory of that YouTube short. So this person was saying, we need to repent and all of these things. So
Yep. Same, basically agreeing with what we were talking about.
agreeing,
In the
right?
video.
Agreeing.
Yep. So thank you, Sandra, for engaging with that. If you're watching, or even if you come across this, and then we have some empty hand 777. And I don't know what video this was in response to, but
I
whoever
think it
this
was
is
also the
says,
Jelly Roll video.
was it the Jelly Roll video too? Okay. You're not going to find a lot of historical facts about Jesus in the Bible.
That feels like a very interesting statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to me, it just seems like a very unsubstantiated claim or opinion.
Well, I guess
You
one,
think that if he was being serious, he would have engaged a little bit more to kind of talk about where he was coming from,
yeah,
Yeah. We probably made him mad.
Probably didn't like the short.
Yeah.
but he's got 3 sevens at the end of his name, so maybe that means something.
Biblical number joke.
Maybe.
Cool. And then the last comment,
Maybe
wasting
something.
time on things we cannot come to conclusion on. If Calvinism, and Nick, I'd actually like to ask you this one. This is why I kind of picked up on reading it. I'd like to ask you, because I didn't really quite understand the point of this last sentence here. If Calvinism derived from clear teaching of the Bible, then we preach it as, and so is Arminianism.
Right.
So what was your initial thoughts on that? Because my initial thought was, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't
What?
really, yeah. My initial thought was that too. And that's by someone named Santos Olara. And so my thought, I think what he's saying is that basically the conversation that we were having, I think this was a comment on our video where we're, explaining Calvinism and explaining Arminianism. I think it was probably part 1 that this comment came on. But he's basically telling us we're wasting our time doing that, I think. And that You teach the scriptures that accord with Calvinism. If it talks about predestination, you teach it. And if it talks about free will, you teach it. Right? He's saying that we're just wasting our time talking about and engaging with things that we can't really ever know for sure. At least that's the way I understand his comment. And
I
if you
agree.
hear this and you want to clarify, please feel free to do so. But yeah, so that's what I think he's trying to say.
And then my additional thoughts on that would be, I think it's interesting. So I guess it would like this premise is built on the presupposition that, so to give him a little bit of grace, I'm assuming a little bit here. But if the premise is we need 100% certainty on something, then I don't think you can prove anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I would posture, or I would claim that, as with any legal, you know, any I'm blanking on the word, investigation or investigative process, the side with the most evidence would be proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And that would be failing belief or doctrine or teaching. And
Mm-hmm.
I would really challenge that, as we talked about in our previous, episodes, would be the one that has the prevailing evidence.
So, I I think we kind of addressed this in the video, because I think the opening question of the video was you saying, "Why should we talk about this?" I think you actually asked that question, like
Yeah, I
right
did.
at
You're
the
right.
open,
I did.
and so I think we kind of addressed it a little bit, but so it's not a waste of time, because as Christians and as believers, our goal should be to pursue God and learn about his nature, who he is, what he's done for us, not just the fact that he saved us, but how did he go about doing it. And we can agree that that was through sending Jesus Christ to die on the cross, but even the deeper details of how that took place, it can draw us into more awe and more worship and praise of who he is. So we should talk about those things, even if this was true that we can't know which one is right. Like, even if it is just like conversation, we're still pursuing God. We're still pursuing him and who he is, and we need to be doing that always and
Mhm.
learning about. And then also beyond that, it's not as though Calvinism and Arminianism just like emerged out of thin air. These aren't just human concepts that emerged out of nowhere.
Right.
Right? These are things rooted in history with backstory and Bible verses and all of that stuff that go right along with them. And just because someone puts Bible verses with a particular theology doesn't mean that that is actually where that Bible verse should fit, right? So, like,
Right.
assessing that and figuring out if it's true, that I think that's pretty worthwhile in my opinion. But
Yeah, I would obviously I
so
would agree with that. Okay, Nick, I'm gonna. This topic was your kind of ball game. So go ahead and I'll let you kind of lead here.
all right. So John Frame, I already kind of introduced him. He's a theologian, a Reformed theologian. And I'm gonna ask Parker. I don't know if we can we throw can we somehow put that link into our video so people could actually get to the ebook that we're referencing here?
I will work
Somehow,
on that. Yes.
maybe after the fact we can do that.
Definitely, yeah, definitely in
Yeah.
post. I'll do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I
So
can do it.
this is from a free ebook, again, by John Frame, Reformed theologian, professor at Westminster Theological Seminary, and the ebook is called Theology at the Movies. And so obviously when I saw this, I was really drawn to it, just the title, because it's very much related to what we do on the podcast usually. when we review movies, and there's even movie reviews in the book. But this week, I found that book again and was kind of skimming through it, and I don't think I had ever really thought about this chapter 3, which is questions to ask of films. And in that chapter, John Frame lays out 12 questions that we should ask of films. And off camera and on camera, I think mostly off camera, Parker and Brody and I have had conversations about what makes a good movie. Like, is there a list of things that we need to put together to determine, like, how to judge if a movie is a quality movie or not? And we've had some kind of discussions / arguments about that kind of thing. And
I'm glad you used the word arguments, because I think this conversation was probably more heated than some of the theological conversations.
This is definitely kind of much more heated than a lot of the theological conversations.
I have the folded up paper on my desk. I'm like afraid to open it again.
Yeah. But maybe maybe this is a step in that direction of a list of things of how do we judge a movie. And I think this is much more in depth than what our discussions were about, but I think it's really good stuff. So we'll get into these questions. So question number 1, and it's kind of more than one question, but that kind of all relates to the same thing. So question number 1, who wrote the film? Who produced it? Who directed it? Do we know through the writings and previous work of these people anything about their philosophy of life? And then he goes on to say that the previous works of actors are also important. Actors contribute much to the quality of a film, little to its fundamental conception, but actors do tend to sign on to projects with which they have some ideological affinity, assuming financial rewards are not otherwise determinative. Mel Gibson almost never takes on films with a heavy sexual element. Mickey Rourke almost always does. The presence of certain actors, granting that they sometimes go against type, can tell you something about the message of film. So I guess the first question is, are there any actors that come to mind that you're like, they're always the same in every movie? You guys?
The Rock.
The Rock?
Yeah. So I was doing a little off screen. Easton's commenting, but we don't see it on the screen here, which is kind of weird.
Okay.
So I was trying to show Parker that. But yeah, The Rock. Like, dude's the same in every movie.
Every single movie. And you can kind of know exactly what that movie's going to be just by his presence in it.
Also, on kind of the same token, Kevin Hart, but in a different way. I feel like I would rather watch, like, I feel like I could consistently watch a Kevin Hart movie, whereas The Rock, I would have to know a little bit more about it. Not that I don't like The Rock's movies, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I need to know a little bit more about the movie, who else is in it, and the writing in order for me to consider watching it. But Kevin Hart's one of those characters where if he's in the movie, I'm probably going to enjoy at least his parts, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What about directors and producers? Like, do you know going in, are there any directors or filmmakers that you know? Because a lot of them we don't know by name, but that you know what type of movie you're going to see just because they're the director. Or what kind of content?
This is more directed at, I mean, most directors, I think, I mean, with Transformers, you know,
Michael Bay's a pretty easy.
Michael Bay. Yeah. You know what you're going to get with Michael Bay. You're going to get
mindless action with
just action for action's sake.
We actually brought this up,
and even the way, like, obviously, like the way they're filmed. You know,
yeah.
If you look at Michael Bay, who obviously did Transformers, and then you look at 13 Hours, you could almost put scenes, you could almost mix the scenes, and they would fit kind of crossed.
Yeah,
just by the style and the way that, you know,
he has a very specific, right in right into, like Optimus Prime's coming down right into the. That's funny. Michael Bay. I feel like two of the good ones, Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Not that their movies are.
Quentin Tarantino's a good one.
Yeah. Not that like every Quentin Tarantino movie is the same. Like it's kind of the other side, but you can always guarantee like certain elements that he slips in. Usually some type of foot thing. And then but he has a lot of other like positive things too that he brings in. That I enjoy as well. Like there are a lot of movies where I'm like, this is a really good movie, and then I'll look at the director and I'm like, I didn't realize that was a Quentin movie. So, and I don't know that I would really fully be able to back up the Martin bit. I just really enjoyed The Irishman. So
I haven't
I
seen
still
the
haven't
Irishman.
seen it.
oh
I haven't seen it.
dude,
Like 4
it's
hours
good.
long, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a
it's
long
really
movie.
and it's heavy.
Is it?
Yeah. It's great
Yeah.
though. It's one of those movies where I mean Joe Pesci tells the story. He's like, I retired from acting, and Martin calls me and was like, can you do one more movie? And he was like, if Martin calls you, like you say yes. You know, like
I will
So-
say that Easton says The Notebook, and I don't know the individual directors of each of
I don't
Nick.
know.
That's Nicholas Sparks, right? The
Yeah,
writer.
but he's the author of the book.
So he's the author. So I guess expanding this, I know that because it says through the writings, I would say
Right.
that would kind of fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if you have somebody who's authoring a book that's in some way shaped the foundation of the film, even though it's taken over by screenwriters and screenplay guys and directors and cinematographers and different things like that, it's still going to carry over. Now it may be lost, bits and pieces of it may be lost as it goes down the line, as if playing the telephone game. But I think if fundamentally, so like if you watch The Notebook, it's going to be very similar to what The Last Ride, with
Are you
Britt
talking about
Robertson.
other book movies it'll be similar
Well, I'm
to?
saying like other movies based off of his books.
Oh, I don't know that I can
So
contribute to this.
like The Notebook would be Nicholas Sparks, The Last Ride would be Nicholas Sparks, and then what's the one with Julian Huff? It's called
I've never even seen
Safe
the
Haven.
Notebook, so I can't even
It's
say.
Safe Haven is another one. So
Yeah.
and so I think that would also fit.
Mm.
You probably say the same thing about Stephen King books
Yeah,
that have been
yeah,
turned into
King,
movies.
absolutely.
I was trying to see if I knew the director.
Now barring because the reason why I put those in there and not like, this may seem obvious, but I put those in there and not Harry Potter's because direct sequels, I don't know if like that could be like one continuous
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are individual movies that are not.
Like
Not
any of the
connected.
John Green books.
Yeah.
I don't know much about them, but I think it's John Green. Or is it Hank Green? Did I confuse it?
John
I have
Green.
no idea
John
what you're
Green's
talking
an author. He's actually from Indiana. He's an author from Indiana, but
Oh, that's cool.
some
Yeah,
like,
he's the
are you
one that
talking
does.
like a young adult series of books.
Yeah, what's the star and the chick on the oxygen?
Oh,
I feel
Fault
like
in Our
I've got to look.
Stars.
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Fault in
yeah,
Our
yeah.
Stars. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
the
I've
same
not
movie?
read or seen the movie, but
I don't think I've seen it either.
I haven't either. Fault in Our
Yeah.
Stars. She's the one on oxygen, though, right? Yeah, and she.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just feel like I've seen a short on it, and I'm like, interesting. I like John Green though. I know.
It's okay. It's a movie.
But I should probably find out more about it because all I know is that she's on oxygen and he makes a smoking joke.
Oh,
And then
you like that. You like that. That's all you know, and that's enough to say you like John Green. You know nothing else but a smoking joke and someone on oxygen.
I'm
I
a
like
simple
that.
guy. I'm a simple guy. I don't know.
I am gonna go see that movie.
I'll just show you the clip.
If it kills me, I'm gonna go see that movie
No,
because
John Green he also does YouTube shorts and YouTube videos. And so I know I looped it in, but why I like John Green is unrelated to that one specific short.
yeah, you did not communicate that well.
Not even at all. I know.
Okay, so
Just one more. The only other
Go
film, my favorite director fits into that very much. So you always
oh wait, drum
Chris-
roll.
Yeah.
Chris
I know.
Hemsworth.
Yeah, no,
Christopher
Chris
Nolan.
Hemsworth, you
Yeah.
moron.
I don't know
Christopher
what
Nolan. Christopher
Christopher
Nolan.
Yeah. He's a good one.
The
Because
tone, the themes. they're
everybody
all
knows that The Dark Knight Rises is Nick's favorite movie.
It's
Dark Knight.
like hands
Dark Knight,
down phenomenal.
not
Rises.
Rises.
Take
No, it's
away the
Dark Knight
rises.
Oh, is it?
Take
No,
away
it's
the rises. The
Knight
Dark
Rises
Knight,
is
just
his
the Dark
favorite
Knight.
movie.
Oh,
But I mean, if you look at like his films are Batman, like Batman Begins and The Prestige and The Dark Knight, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises. They're very similar in the feel of them, and you kind of know what you're going to get. And until until his most recent movie, Oppenheimer, you always knew what kind of content was going to be in it too. It was always going to be a PG-13 movie that was made for grown-ups, but Oppenheimer kind of broke that mold. Everything else was still kind of similar, like the visual style and everything was really similar, but it's got, graphic nudity in it and it's rated R, and so he kind of departed from his normal
Wait, which one is
normal
this?
content. Oppenheimer.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet.
Yeah, so it's got a couple different scenes of pretty graphic nudity in it, but which is kind of disappointing. Not kind of, is disappointing, especially from a filmmaker who had never really done that in the past. But he's one of them that will.
Yeah, because Nolan did The Prestige, didn't he?
Yep.
The Prestige,
Inception.
That's right. And all of those are like, you can definitely, there's like a invisible fingerprint with the directors, and you can just, it's almost like the same movie that could all fit in. I mean, obviously Batman's a little bit darker, but
yeah, but you can still like,
there are scenes in Inception that would work in some of the scenes in Batman.
And all of the music fits because it's all Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, it's all Hans Zimmer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, he also dominates music in the entire industry.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
I mean, Hans Zimmer, he did Star Wars, didn't he?
No, I thought John Williams.
Yeah, John Williams.
The big three is Steve Jablonsky, who did all of the not Star Wars. Oh my gosh, Transformers and other stuff.
Okay.
Hans Zimmer, though, I mean, Hans Zimmer's done everything from every Christopher Nolan movie to like the Modern Warfare 2 music.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So dude does everything.
He does it all.
Yeah. Have I told you guys, whether on screen or off screen, the story about was it Inception or Interstellar's music where
Interstellar. That's another one.
Yeah, when Hans Zimmer does the music.
Yeah.
I think it's Interstellar because I think I told you guys this, but real quick, it's the Christopher Nolan called him up. He was telling a story. I think Hans was telling the story. He's like, Christopher called me on a Sunday at like 7:00. I answered, and he says, "Hey, can you write me a score? I don't know, about like a dad taking his son somewhere or whatever." Right. And Hans is like, "Sure." And like it was completely unrelated to the movie. And so Hans develops the score and he goes, "Hey, what did you think of it?" And Christopher Nolan goes, "Well, I guess I should make the movie." And I think it was it was either Inception or Interstellar, one of the two.
Probably Interstellar.
It might have been
Interstellar.
It sounds like Interstellar.
Yeah. And so then Christopher Nolan started writing and developing that movie. And I guess that was the interaction. So
yeah, for sure.
It was cool.
All right. So let's move on to number 2. Is it well made aesthetically? Are the production and acting values of high quality? These factors may have little to do with the message, but they do tend to determine the extent of the film's cultural impact. And that is important for our purposes. If a film is well made, it can have a large impact upon the culture for good or ill. Of course, some bad films also have a major impact. So are there any films that either we've already reviewed on the podcast or maybe just, random things that you've seen that stand out aesthetically, like visually?
I'm trying to approach this question and think of the ones that aren't just obvious low budget films.
Sure. Does it have to be low budget? Did I miss that part?
No, I'm saying that like the extremes are going to be very easy to delineate. Like it's really easy to go to some of the movies that we just listed.
Oh, I see.
Those are all going to be aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. And then if you go watch like Superbad, or if you go watch Hot Tub Time Machine, or I've not seen some of these movies. I'm just saying, like, obviously these ones, like National Lampoons or some of these low budget B flicks.
Anything with Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Fletch and Christmas Vacation.
I don't even know if I would say that one. I think that one would count as aesthetic. It's just an older movie, so the technology.
But it is well made.
It's well made. I would say that's good. Like I'm thinking that I would put that in the same category as the Home Alone movies.
Fair. Okay. Yeah.
Also well made. Sure.
Very well made.
So I'm saying that like a really great, aesthetically pleasing film is going to be obvious compared to the worst of the worst.
So we're talking.
So I'm trying to find, when does it go from that to bad in the middle?
And then this also includes acting in it. So he includes acting in this category too.
Right.
So are the production and acting values of high quality?
So top tier would be like Avatar.
Would it be?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I love that
Like-
movie, but
No,
cinematography.
I enjoy it, but yeah, I think it's definitely pretty. The first Avatar, I mean, both of them
Yeah.
really are pretty
the
amazing in
thing-
terms of visuals. But again, Parker and I talked about this in our review of Avatar. It's Pocahontas. It
But
really is.
we're
just
not talking
Pocahontas
about writing,
again.
though. We're not talking about messaging, right?
True, but
So, but
I'm
the
not sure I'm
acting
sold
and
on the
visual
acting.
effects.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So-
I'm not gonna.
sure.
I haven't seen it in a
I'm not
while, and I
sure.
haven't seen the second one. So
So my first thoughts in that gray area are like National Treasure with Nicolas Cage.
yeah,
So like I give it maybe like a C+ for the acting. B- maybe. Now it looks great, but I would not put that on the same playing field as like The Dark Knight or
any of the
Inception
Ocean's movies.
Right.
or I wouldn't put that with I don't know, the Titanic,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
it like literally like it's almost as if you're watching art. I know that sounds really dumb, but
Right.
you're watching someone
Right.
paint a picture almost.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And
would
some of
say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and some of the visual shots actually look like painted pictures,
Yes.
like that they could be hanging on a wall somewhere
Right.
for sure. Same with Avatar. I would say Avatar has,
Yeah.
from the visual perspective, definitely has that. What are the movies?
I'm still a big fan of the Titanic because I think the technology, like I know you tease me about it all the time
Timeless,
and you
right?
laugh,
You say it's
but
timeless.
it's timeless because like
Yeah.
think about it. Think about Avatar and
go.
all of the technology that we have today to make that movie happen.
Yeah.
Right? What's the thing? I think they shot it all on IMAX cameras. They broke one of them or something like that. There's only like 2 of those cameras in the world. They broke.
That was The Dark Knight.
Well, that was The Dark Knight. Okay.
yeah,
So
that was The
I
Dark
got that
Knight.
wrong. But anyway, I'm saying all the technology we have today, but then go back and they have to recreate all of that same green screen CGI imaging with live action filming for the Titanic.
And
Like
it can't look out of place. It has
and
to
it can't.
look.
It has to look perfect.
Yeah.
And I think they nailed it. So
They
Yeah.
did. They did a really
If
good
we had
job.
$1 for every
So-
time Parker brought up the Titanic in one of these episodes,
And
I'd be
called
able
it
to buy a
timeless.
hat. Yeah,
It's
and
timeless
call it
film that it's
timeless.
called.
hey, I'm just talking
But-
truth to you.
Like, to be fair, I mean, this is talking about how that helps films have a cultural impact, and Titanic definitely had a cultural impact. Like,
Right.
that movie was top 2 at the box office for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you don't hear of that anymore at all.
Ooh.
On any level.
Oh, The Departed. Clay just hit us up on
Oh,
Facebook.
yeah.
The Departed is a great movie.
I've never seen The Departed,
is.
but Whiplash is the one I was going
See,
after.
I haven't seen Whiplash.
With J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller.
Mm-mm.
Ooh,
I
my
haven't seen
dude.
Whiplash.
Yeah.
Miles Teller's is I like his movies.
Yeah, it's do you know what it's about?
No,
So I don't know if it's based on a real story or not.
I might remember if you tell me.
It's but the story is there's this really hard music teacher that is like top tier. Like if it's he's one of those guys in the movie where if you go under him, you're gonna walk out a success because he's like astronomically brutal. And it's like kind of like an underdog story, right? So Miles Teller's character has a great skill of being like I think it's jazz. I can't remember. I know I just watched it.
Clay, throw it in the comment section. What type of music does he teach?
Is it jazz or something? But it's some type of like classical music like that, jazz, blues, something like that. And he's a drummer. And anyway, so the whole premise is he's like every great instrumentalist or whatever, every great player has a harder teacher. And so but yeah, no, so it's really great. And then Miles like ends up quitting and then he undercuts him. And then he like the JK's character pretends to forgive him and invites him to play drums on the stage in front of a crowd, and then undercuts him publicly. And then Miles is like, and then they have like this weird connection, and then they both like, and then they just crush it, and it ends like with like them both being like super happy and proud. It's honestly like a super weird dichotomy.
Was that a spoiler? Did you just
Yeah,
spoil
for
the
sure.
whole movie?
I told the entire. It's a music movie. I mean,
Yeah,
like
here we
you
are.
could-
Here we just tell you we haven't seen it, and you just now we have.
yeah,
We've heard
yeah,
it.
yeah.
you have.
We've heard it.
But okay,
Clay will be so disappointed. He commented. He said, "You're right, jazz band. Yeah,
see, that's what I said.
it's a roller coaster."
yeah.
Clay says, "Whiplash might be the greatest hidden gem movie of all time," and Brody just ruined
I
it.
did. I just ruined it all for you. But to be fair, I haven't seen Titanic, and you guys won't shut up about that. So, or Parker
Yeah.
won. I'm sorry.
So if
But that's
Clay,
on me.
so here's the deal. This is what we should do. I think we should invite Clay back for another podcast movie review, and we should do Whiplash.
Ooh.
Ask him. He can hear you.
Clay,
So let's-
that's what we're doing.
Can you hear
So
you?
get in contact with Nick,
Yeah.
and we'll schedule it, and we'll put it
Yeah.
on the thing. And he says, "Yeah, that spoiler session was super tough."
My bad.
Okay, well,
I really
Clay,
like that
get with
movie.
Nick, and we will put something on the calendar, and we will get you on the podcast. And because it was Unbroken, I wish we could have. That's such a good movie. We should record that
we
one
need
too.
to do that. Yeah. So one last question with this. So he mentions that these great movies with high production values can have a cultural impact for good or for bad.
Mhm.
So can you think of any movies that are just fantastically made that
For-
you would say have had bad cultural impact?
Most movies made.
But can you think of anything specific?
Uh,
Like I would be tempted to say like Barbie, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know that I can say it 100% certain.
I would say most. The reason why I say most movies is because I have to keep it broad, because from our position, most movies perpetuate anti-biblical things. So like
Yeah.
like Sex Out of Marriage, unbelieving thought, idolization of materials and self-knowledge and all these things, right, that we talk about in our movie reviews. So I think that's bad for culture, especially when you have a society that looks at celebrities. And I know there's a shift happening in our society now, but there's still a lot of emphasis and idolization put on celebrities, and there's a lot of people that take their beliefs and what they perpetuate, and they implement that as ways to live their life. Like, if you look at this, so like where I'm coming from is like, look at some of the like the patriarchal families that we've seen in like when we were growing up. Like, what did we have? We had like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Yeah.
right? So
Which
we
was
had
like
we had Uncle
top
Phil,
tier.
top tier. We had Uncle Phil,
Yeah.
So we had Family Matters,
Yeah.
with Carl, right?
Both two great black shows.
Right. And say what you want about Bill Cosby, but the show itself perpetuated a great message, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? What other movie, like what other TV shows?
I mean, you could say Full House.
Full
every
House.
one of them.
Yeah, all
of our family's rewatching Boy Meets World right now.
Boy Meets World. That's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that there was definitely an emphasis put on the nuclear family, which I guess I'm kind of inadvertently answering the positive influence on culture,
right,
by those
in the
TV
90s.
shows in the 90s, and then fast forward
20 years,
and now what do they get? Cardi B,
yeah.
But what about
Nicki Minaj? What do they?
what about in terms of TV shows that would be like this generation's version of the ones that we're talking about?
8 Simple Rules.
I mean, as much as I like Yellowstone,
I haven't seen that.
I would still put that in. It's I get mixed feelings about that show, but it's a blend of both, really. There's conservative, there's liberal, there's sin. Obviously, we live in a world of sin, and a movie without that would be absent reality, to some sense of grounding in reality. We wouldn't watch it because it wouldn't be a good story. So I don't know. There's just a lot. I don't know if I can answer your question, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen.
It's so
like, what are the shows that a family would sit down and watch together now? Even so, let's say there's a family that disagrees with us on all of our values. Like, they don't really care about manhood or fatherhood and things like that. So what would they sit down and watch together? Or would they even, is that even a thing anymore? Right?
The
Because there's
boys.
not family sitcoms, but is there like what do families even watch together now? I don't think I would even know where to
Families.
start because we watch stuff from the 90s.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even know where to go with some of that stuff. I mean, we watch new movies together too, but like in terms of ongoing TV shows, I don't even.
Well, I mean, the
I
ones
don't
that
know
I've
who.
seen recently are like all of the Yellowstone stuff. So like 1883, 1923, Yellowstone. They're coming out with a whole bunch of other ones. There's one called Tulsa King. You know, like Taylor Sheridan's kind of big right now with his
Mhm.
with his stuff. There's a few other ones that I haven't seen yet that he does, and then
Well, the real
I know that Zendaya was in one for all the younger
Euphoria.
kids, Euphoria, and
that was a terrible show.
that was like super graphic.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so that's the
sexually and
difference though too, is those are at least rated TVMA. Whereas like where's the like PG content?
I don't
well,
think
Does
there
it, is
is
that
any.
a thing?
I mean, you
Like
gotta think most of it would be like owned by Disney, and
I
I don't know what's on Netflix. Probably something that they would watch. I have not seen it, but I know I think my brother and what's it called? It's like the newer version of the Goonies.
Oh, I don't know.
Help me
didn't
out,
even know there
comment
was one.
section.
My
Do you know
knowledge.
what platform? What platform
Like
it's on?
super was it shoot Outer Banks. Thanks, Kayla. Appreciate it. Um
Oh, I've never even heard of that. I don't
Outer
even know what
Banks
that
is
is.
on Netflix. Um So, but most of it is like I think right now they would sit down and watch Star Wars and all the Star Wars universe that they're recreating,
Yeah.
but Disney
Well,
owns that. So
but
there's
those
a big
aren't bad though.
yeah, but there's a big conservative push to not pay Disney money because of the whole
Right, right,
indoctrination thing with
Right.
the kids.
But if you
So
isolate that, that would be the only, like, truly one of the only shows that I think the three of
I
us could
mean,
come up with.
Bluey is
I almost said
fantastic.
Bluey early too.
Yeah,
Earlier
that's
too.
one but that's a cartoon, right? Like
Blu-ray.
I mean, I would say the Daily Wire just opened up their Bent Key platform, and I love the Chip Chilla show that we let Ronan watch. I know Wild Kratts is a big one for younger kids,
Mhm.
where the
Yeah.
Kratt brothers are the guys that
Liam
in
used
our
to
day
like
we
that.
knew them. In our day we knew them as Zaboomafoo. They're the
No
guys that did
way.
the Zaboomafoo stuff.
They're still alive? Like, that makes
They
sense.
came out with a new one. It's called Wild Kratts, and it's the Kratt brothers, and it's actually live action and animated like in like the same. It's like a hybrid, and they start off live action and they go through and they teach the kid about the animals and the ecosystems and all that,
That's
and then
awesome.
they jump into this whole other world that's animated, and they've got these suits and they have these cards or these discs that you can touch the animal and you can put the disc in and your suit actually change into the animal, and then you can do the animal things
So
and
it's like
learn about
Blue's
them.
Clues?
No, it's
Or is it like straight up animated? Like they jump into an actually like
yeah, Blue's Clues in that sense, yeah, where Steve is like a real guy, and
yeah,
then they
yeah,
can jump in the animated thing. Yeah,
yeah.
it's like that.
Okay.
But it's when it's live action, it's live action, and then when it's animated, it's animated.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know none of the TV
I-
shows that Amazon Prime are producing are like none of them are like under 18.
I mean, maybe
Yeah, it's like
one of the ones I think maybe PG-13, like Reacher is a good one.
Yeah, but there's even nudity in
but
that one.
that's
Oh, I guess that's fair.
TVMA too.
Is it
Like
MA? I thought it was
I got
PG-13.
caught
Yeah.
off guard with that one. Because that dude,
it's like all the streaming services are trying to be what HBO was back in the day.
Yeah,
yeah,
like adults, and
Game
But
of
then
Thrones.
it was like
I know Game of Thrones
but
was
kids
huge.
wouldn't have had access to HBO.
Right, they wouldn't have.
No,
Like but now with streaming services, it's impossible to really
there's
police
not,
and
yeah,
like
there's not much
find that stuff.
regulation.
But
Okay.
yeah, we got to get moving.
Yeah,
We're gonna
sorry.
be on here forever. But all right. So number 3, the third question to ask is it honest, true to its own position? So this would be not necessarily is what it's saying true. It's is it consistent with itself?
See, I would say no.
Or
I
does
would
it
say
break
most
down?
things no. I think this is a good one, but I think that we could do a whole show on just this question.
I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
movies that are true to themselves position though.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think there's it's mixed. I think there's a lot that are true to
I
themselves,
think
and then
it,
a
I
lot
think
that
that it
have to
would help
jump
if we
out of
had a
their
movie.
own. Well, Parker, when
So
we reviewed the Batman, that's one of the things we talked about was how it didn't make sense within itself because Gotham is this corrupt place, but they can solve corruption by relying on each other, right? So you have this corrupt society of Gotham, yet the answer is to rely on those also corrupt people and come together and overcome
Right.
their
Right.
like. So that's not consistent. That's not a real.
Right.
I think we both really liked that movie, but that's not really a
Right.
consistency within itself. So that was
I guess I'm taking this from the apologetic side of this is what the movie is saying, and then what are we saying to that movie? Maybe I'm trying to
no,
answer
I
the
think
question
it's
wrong.
what the movie is saying.
do they accurately portray what they are trying to portray?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that cohesive within their story?
Okay, yeah. So in that world, is that cohesive? I
Yeah.
got you.
Not is it true or do we agree with it?
Right.
Yeah.
Real quick, Kayla made a really good point for the last thing that we talked about. So we can say this real quick, and then we can continue moving on. I know we got to get going, but Kayla's point here, she left this comment, and the gist of her point is they're remaking all of the stuff that we watched, but putting in modern themes, which is where we're seeing all of this virtue signaling and different things
Mm.
in these, and they're kind of ruining the shows as we
Original.
know them because of the pull to the left.
Can we think of an example of one of those? Because I don't know of
So
many.
like she lists a few of them. So she says Fuller House, Family Reunion, One Day at a Time.
That's it.
I think that's it. But like they did Friends Reunion. They did there was another one.
Right, but they didn't Friends Reunion was just like an actual
It was just a show. Like maybe that's
like
a bad example,
reunion
but
special. Yeah.
Fuller House is a good one. Right now they've got the on Hulu. No, not Hulu. Peacock. They've got the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. It's called Bel Air. They've
Yeah.
got that running, and it's like it's got the same modern day
Really?
leftist pull of all this, social
Understood.
justice stuff, and it's just like we stopped watching it, and it's
Mm.
just annoying. So it's so much injected forcefully in there that you can't appreciate the show.
Right.
The show,
Yeah.
but without that, the show would be great. It'd be awesome. The
All
actors,
shows would.
the actors would be great. The casting's good. The writing's good. Even
Will Smith isn't in that, is he? Or
no, I think he's a part of it somehow, but he's not in it. Like,
He's the producer of it.
is he the producer?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So, like, I understand making it modern, but at the same time, don't. It's just the agenda that gets pushed, and it's
right.
annoying.
Yeah.
So, okay,
All right. Question
I
number
thought that was a
4.
good point. So,
Yeah. Question number 4. What kind of film is it? So this one's really easy. We probably don't need to spend much time on this, but just
right,
genre, right? What genre? It's important to know what genre the film is in order to accurately like assess it. So a superhero movie should be assessed a little bit differently than a war movie or a historical drama or something like that. So, just things like that. And then he says in that category, obviously each film must be judged according to its purpose and genre. We don't demand of a fantasy the kind of historical accuracy we demand of a supposedly literal biography, right? So just recognizing different genres. Question number 5, and this one is where we try to get to. Sometimes we do it well and sometimes we don't. But what is the worldview of the film? So, what worldview are they trying to push through the film? Is it theistic, atheistic, Christian, non Christian? And if it's non Christian, is its main thrust relativistic or dogmatic? How does it employ the theme of equality? That's an important one. That's very much important now in today's world. Is there any role for providence, for God? Is the film pessimistic or optimistic? Does the action move in deterministic fashion? Or is there a significant role for human choice? It's like all of those things are elements of worldview.
Right.
that will creep in, and based on the way that the movie is put together and structured, you can do some digging into that to see what is the worldview of the filmmakers who are producing this, and what's the message they're trying to portray. Any thoughts on that, guys?
No, I think all that's pretty straightforward for me.
Yeah.
I agree with your assessment that we do our best to do that, and sometimes we do it well, sometimes we do it poorly.
Yeah.
So we can keep going.
Yeah. So question number 6: what is the plot, and what problems do the characters face? Can these problems be correlated in some way with the fall of mankind and Adam? Does the film, in effect, deny the fall, or does it affirm it in some way? So, like, I think of a movie, like, not to be redundant, but like the Batman, right? They kind of play both sides of that. They, on one hand, they want to say people are born good, right? We can trust each other. Our community is strong and good people are here. But on the other hand, they want to play how corrupt politicians and people and leaders and people like that are. So, like, you can see a little bit of both. They kind of, I think those filmmakers might in some ways deny the fall, like mankind is not sinful. And in other ways, they affirm it and be like, yes, we believe mankind is sinful, but they might deny original sin. And so, that plays into that as well. And then also, I think that's really helpful too, just to assess how do the characters overcome the problems that are in front of them. Like, what is the steps that they have to take in order to do that? And what does that do to them personally as well? Like, what is the problem? How do they overcome it? And what did they have to sacrifice in order to overcome it? Those are all really important things to talk about when watching a movie. Then the 7th question is, are the problems soluble, which I think is just an educated word for solvable. If so, what methods are available to the characters so that they can find the answers they need? Is there any movie, and nothing, it's fine if nothing comes to mind, but is there any movie where you felt like you related very much to the problems that the characters on screen were facing? Like, you could have, like, is there a movie that you felt like you could have put yourself into that main character's shoes and, like, yeah, I'm facing those types of problems in my own life? Like, can you think of a movie that would have been like that?
Like, I know I've watched one and been like, that's me,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm having a hard time thinking of it.
I think most people could relate to Free Guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just anybody that's stuck in the same old routine,
Yeah.
and you're just going to work and you're coming home and you're going to work and you're coming home. You go to school, maybe, sports and football and baseball. I played baseball in college, and you have your schedule. A lot of it's for us parents. We go to work, we come home, we do the kids, dishes, chores, go to bed, wake up, do it all over again, right?
Yeah.
And you're just in this non-player character mode where you just are it's in your code, right? It's in your coding, and you're just over and over and over and over again, and it just doesn't seem to stop. And then all of a sudden, you listen to a Granger Smith podcast, or you do something, and it corrupts the code, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
It corrupts the code, and then all of a sudden now you're elevated. you know People that are more predisposed to entrepreneurial ideas can kind of relate to this as well, where it's like, oh, well, now I can operate on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're not entrepreneurial and you are in a career, and you're in a business career, and you hear a quote, or you hear some type of motivation or good vibe or whatever it is, maybe it's a theological concept that you have digested a little bit better, and you have a better understanding of how to walk with God, or live out your Christian faith, and you can apply it to these different aspects of your lives, and it kind of unlocks that code, and you become like Guy in that movie, where you can start to learn now.
Mhm.
and you're learning, and you're kind of operating on a different level, and you're outside, off the beaten path, and you're kind of traversing this new terrain, and it becomes an adventure,
Mhm.
and you feel alive. And I think most people can relate to that for sure.
I think so. I haven't seen Free Guy, but I have seen The Truman Show, and that's very similar.
Be very similar
Yeah.
to the Truman
Except
Show.
for the- I don't think-
Absolutely.
I don't know if in Free Guy, does it carry on after he's realized it?
Yes, he realizes it fairly early in the movie.
So, okay, so that's the point of
He
the movie
doesn't- he
is the
doesn't-
realization.
The point of the movie is,
Not the point, but that's it happens
Don't
post
spoil
realization.
it for him. Don't
I
spoil
won't
it.
spoil
Yeah,
it.
I do it because I love
Let's not
Ryan
do to
Reynolds.
him what he did to us.
Yeah.
Okay, like
So it would be
I'm sorry.
it would be as if you watched the Truman Show, but Truman realized. It would be as if Truman realized, probably an hour into the movie,
Got it, because he doesn't realize it, and then
30 minutes into the movie or whatever.
which I'm
And
not
then
going to
it's-
spoil it. But if you haven't seen the Truman Show at this point, that's on you. So
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like almost 30 years old, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's an
Well,
older-
Whiplash came out like 3 years ago, so
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it did, but so
Um,
Easton's commenting again, and we're still not seeing it up there.
Oh, here, let me see if I can refresh this. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
All right. Well, you get that. I'm gonna.
Keep going.
I do a lot of work with throughout my life with
Weird.
teenagers and foster kids and kids that have been removed from their homes, and all of them have always really related to Harry Potter because of not knowing his family, not knowing his parents, or not being there with his parents. And so like they've always kind of really been tied to that series of movies as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Question number 8: what is the moral stance of the film? Is it morally relative, dogmatic, a combination? What are attitudes towards sex, family, human life, property, truth, heart attitudes? What is the source of moral norms, if any? Does justice prevail? So I know we're going to talk about some. I think starting next week we might talk about some movies from particular decades, starting with the 70s, and there's a movie called Chinatown, and it's kind of a whole genre of movies, like a noir genre, but like the whole point is the worst thing possible happens and the movie ends, right? Like there's no justice, there's no good that prevails, the world is a bad place, and that's where we are. And that's kind of how the movie ends, and that's how a lot of those types of movies end too. So just that's what comes to mind for me. Does justice prevail? In most movies, at least somewhat, probably, or at least they are trying to display that justice prevailed. But in movies like Chinatown, they don't even want to give you the impression at all that
Mhm.
justice can prevail in any way, and that's their goal, because that's kind of that nihilistic, everything is awful kind of worldview that they're coming from with those movies.
I just watched one movie where it ended, and it did end with justice, but then it ended the movie. It was Headshot. It was Peanut Butter Falcon.
Oh
Have you guys ever seen the Peanut Butter Falcon?
I really enjoyed that movie.
I loved
Yeah.
that movie.
I like that movie.
Oh, that's so good. But it got to a point where I was like, is it going to, like, is there going to be justice? And then it ended. And I was like, man, I wish it would have carried on a little bit longer, which I understand why it didn't. But I loved that movie.
Yeah, I really liked the movie, except for the. Okay, I'm not going to spoil. Never mind. People
See?
go watch it.
It's not
and
as easy as you think.
I'm not going to do it. Really good movie. I think it's on Prime right now. So if anyone has Prime,
Yeah, that's where I watched it. Yeah.
Go watch Peanut Butter Falcon.
I am a big
Really
fan
good.
of Shia LaBeouf, though, so that was an easy sell for me.
Yeah.
And the other actor.
All right. Have we found Easton's comments?
Yeah.
Although I don't know at what point in time he said them.
I don't either. But it'll be okay. Let's keep going because we're running short on
Okay.
time here.
All right. So number 9, in comedy, what is it that's funny? What are the typical incongruities? Who is the butt of the jokes? Christians, traditional values, are the wicked, the righteous, God, Satan? Is the humor anarchic? I don't think I know what that means. Do you? What does that even mean?
Like
Is the
anarchy?
humor Is that what I
Yeah,
mean?
That would be my guess.
yeah, like
Okay.
anarchistic. Oh,
Is it rationality gone awry? Is it bitter or gentle? Does it rely on caricatures? And if so, whom? This is a hard category because I don't know about you, Brody, but Parker and I love The Office,
I love The
right?
Office.
And sometimes the humor, or a lot of the times, the humor in The Office can definitely cross certain lines.
Those
And
are
I
my
think,
favorite parts.
yeah, and we think they're funny too.
Yeah,
But the problem, like I think Parker and I have had the conversation a lot. Like, what is that line? Like, just because something's funny, what is the line that I should stop at? Like,
yeah.
where
'Cause
is it no longer okay, and where is it
there are
like
even a few jokes in there where I'm like, I'm gonna laugh, but I'm kind of gonna be like, my bad, God, you know.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna laugh. But it's like, ooh, that even crosses not so much in The Office, but there are some jokes where there actually like Packer, right? There's not really a lot of me that thinks his character is relevant, needed, or that funny.
You should go back and watch our movie review on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
Mhm.
we talk
you
about
did it. Oh, like
Yeah.
on Office, you did like a review.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay. Am I?
Yeah.
Where am I on the WatchWell spectrum?
I don't know what that
This
means.
was early.
Am I
Early.
like? Would you agree with that
This was
statement?
like
Or
a year ago.
does that?
Oh, would we
Okay.
agree with it? Like,
We
where would
agree.
we fall?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, so
Yeah.
do you not agree with it now, or do you
Oh
still?
no, we would agree with it,
Okay.
but it was a little nuanced, if I remember correctly. Like I said, it was
Yeah.
like almost a year ago
Oh,
Yeah.
when we did that. When they did that episode, I
got it.
think we still have it up on you. I think it's still up. I don't remember.
But
we
yeah.
got
So that.
some,
But
we got
anyway,
some
that line of.
copyright issues with that
Yeah.
episode
Oh,
for
really?
some reason.
Yeah, because it was the very first time that we tried the fair use thing, and we actually put certain scenes in the video.
Oh,
So we were like trying to figure out how all that works.
and it didn't go too well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's
I don't
that
think I
kind
took
of
it out.
line crossing is even I have like there are certain lines that even I don't cross. So.
I just wonder if yeah, that could be a whole other podcast. So we can keep moving
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Real quick, sorry. Easton commented again. He says, "Here's a question I'll prompt if you have a chance as it pertains to something brought up today in class about the potential issues of putting one's identity into art, music, movies, etc."
I think so. The question is
The issue. So I guess more clarity, Easton, on that. Like, what's the question,
what
buddy?
is? I think it's regarding. I think, and I know
Maybe
this
you
because I
know
was
because
in
you were
class.
in the class.
I think he's talking about. So you actually hit on it a little bit earlier, but about what he's getting at is idolizing celebrities and idolizing and putting them in a position that's above God, right? And so I think that's kind of the question he's getting at is what are some of the issues if you did that would come? Which that's a pretty heavy and sort of easy to answer question as well. Like, basically, what are the consequences of idolizing something above God? But in
Yeah.
terms of, art, music, movies, that kind of thing, right?
It's
Like if
definitely
you love,
not good for your soul.
yeah,
Not good
yeah,
for your walk with the Lord. Like,
yeah,
and that's true. I mean, that's true of any
nailed it.
idolatry whatsoever. So, but yeah, I mean, we can definitely idolize. You could idolize story, and you can idolize good things too. You could idolize
Mhm.
films that are on this that are making good cultural impact, right? You can idolize things like that. And
Well, the first thing now that you
so,
say that, the first thing that comes to my mind is if like as an example, The Chosen. If you watch The Chosen and you take that and base your theology off of that, that would be a form of idolization.
Right.
or when you go to worship at church, the day after watching The Chosen, and as you're, you know, singing a song that says Jesus' name, you're picturing Jesus from The Chosen,
Right.
right?
So that's where it
So
gets
like
really
that's
sticky.
another.
From the
As
dude.
as Vody Bachman says it, that's a 2CV. It's a second commandment violation.
I'm just starting to get into him.
Yeah, he's great, man. He's great. But we could do a whole podcast episode on that for sure.
Yeah.
But you definitely got to be like weary man cautious. You got to be cautious with that kind of stuff when when it's all that. So
number 10, only got 3 left. So I think we
real
should go ahead
quick,
and
can
go
I
through
say
it.
something about the comedy?
Yeah,
Real
absolutely.
quick, one more thing. When I read this one first, the first thing I thought it was the Fablemans when we did that movie review, because they make Christians the butt of the joke.
But was it good?
And it was the
you.
caricature of a high school Christian girl.
Female Christian.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah.
It was the high school Christian girl, and
She have a pink Bible.
But at the same
I think she
time,
did actually.
it was
With the
so
bow.
shocking. It was hilarious.
It was
Was
actually
it was
very.
good though?
It
Yeah,
was
okay.
so funny. It was so.
I don't know that it
funny.
was good. I wouldn't call it good.
But
I would
I mean,
call
sorry,
it very funny though.
it was funny. I have no problem with people making fun of Christians or anybody as long as it's funny. That's honest.
Yeah.
That's honestly all I care about. You can make fun of me all day long, but if it's like not funny and you're trying too hard, but I feel that way about all things of humor. Like, I don't know, if you're going to make a good controversial joke, you've got to be able to nail it all across the board, and it has to be funny.
Yeah, it's definitely the comedy thing is very interesting to me because you want you want comedy in some sense to be anti society. Like you want it to be against the grain.
Right.
That's like kind of the history of it, right? I think of court gestures and like they're making fun of the king, and it's a way for the people to get back at the leader.
Yeah.
And as soon as
In
that is shut down, then you delve into tyranny, right?
Yeah. In a borderline harmless way. But see, it's borderline because if you don't do it right, then it's like that was funny or that wasn't funny, and it was like not funny.
Yeah, I think that there's a way to be lighthearted about it, and I think there's a way to be strategic for sure.
And I think
I also think there's a level of humility to understand what is over the top.
Right.
Like in this instance of the movie that we're talking about, and you would completely understand
it's called The Fablemans.
The Fablemans.
All right, I'm gonna add it to the list.
It's a Steven Spielberg movie.
Oh, there's another director.
It was a director. Yeah, we didn't even name. How
Yeah,
did we not name?
It was really funny, and I think to some degree they nailed the caricature, which is why.
But also, not to give you false expectations, the movie is not a comedy. It's a drama.
No, it's actually. I think that's the only funny part of the movie because it's a very heavy film.
But okay, so it's like worth the watch though. Worth it too.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
it's good.
Yeah,
it's a very
absolutely.
Good movie.
Okay, it's a very heavy film. So
I could talk about comedy stuff all day long, so we can move on.
That would be a good one. Dude. Comedy and films and like Christian theology.
What I do in my pastime is study like
it would be good to talk to him about
comedians.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Number 10, are there allusions to historical events, literary works, or other films, famous people, scripture that would give us some idea where the filmmakers are coming from? The first thing that comes to mind for this is the TV show Criminal Minds, which it ran for 16 years, but especially in the early seasons, every show would open with a quote from some historical figure, and a big portion of those were Bible verses. And sometimes it meant that the theme of the story was going to uphold that Bible verse, but other times it was introducing that Bible verse as a dangerous thing that propels like a serial killer that they're searching for in his own mission. So like there's kind of both there, but that's one that I can think of where there's reference to other works and other authors and especially scripture and things like that directly in the content itself.
The movie that comes to mind, it's an older film with Jim Carrey. It's called The Number 23. Have you guys ever seen it?
I've never seen it, but I'm familiar with it. I've watched a couple of interviews of him doing.
So the movie is essentially about Jim Carrey's character, and he strolls into a bookstore. I think it might be their wedding anniversary or his birthday or something. I think it's his birthday, and his wife buys him a book, and it's called The Number 23. And the book is a biography about this detective. And it's about this detective who becomes obsessed with the number 23. And he starts seeing it at this number everywhere in his life. and it goes on this journey, and this book starts to like captivate his life, and with this number, and then as he's reading the book, he starts to think he's kind of going insane because parts of the book replicate his childhood.
Mm. Dude, I bet that was a good movie.
It was so good.
Because Jim Carrey is
It
like,
is so good. And then it's about what happens after that.
I'm gonna add this one to my list.
It was so good. And the Bible verse used is Numbers 32:23. Be sure that I don't want to give it away. If you know the Bible verse, you know the Bible verse, but I don't want to give it away because the Bible verse, the whole plot of the movie is about is wrapped around this Bible verse.
Yeah.
So, did you see it, Nick?
No, I've never seen it.
It's really good. That would be another one that we need to review for sure.
Another one that comes to mind is the Book of Eli.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Ooh.
It's a great movie.
But we can't say what the book is because that's a spoiler.
Right.
Brody, that's a
Okay.
spoiler.
I feel like
Yeah,
because
stop,
of me,
stop.
you
I'm gonna
now
mute Brody.
recognize when spoilers are happening, so
I'm gonna
you're
mute him.
welcome.
I need to mute. I didn't mute him. Just hit the mute
Does the
button.
bleep button still work?
It didn't work, by the way.
No.
No, it did not. It did
No, did it not?
It did not work.
Nope.
Oh my gosh, I just
It
got
was
it.
an absolute failure. Cursing in one of our videos. That was not the goal.
Not our proud moment.
All right, number 11.
We did preface it. We did say, "Hey, we're going to try and do this."
Yeah.
But later in post, I put a bleep in there.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good.
What are the chief images of the film? Is there anything interesting about the lighting, the camera angles, the sound, the timing, which would reinforce a particular theme? Are there significant symbols? The number 23 is probably a good example, even though I haven't seen it. But based on what you said,
I would say all of the Da Vinci Code movies would fit.
Yeah, significant symbols.
Yeah,
and if a film's really well made, the camera shots are in some way going to be supportive of where they are in the story, if that makes sense. So like for example, Inception, for most of the movie, the main character can never see his kids' faces, but you see his kids a lot.
That's a good example.
You just never see their face. Like the camera will never show their face, right? So it puts you into his struggle, into his situation. So that's the
what's the movie? There's a movie. I brought it up earlier. Example, Safe Haven, where Julianne Hough's friend in that movie is actually Cobby Smulders from How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah. Okay.
And throughout the entire movie, you think that she's a friend that lives in the area, that lives in that town. And then at the very end, you find out that, spoiler, because this is an older movie, you find out that it was actually the guy that she's been dating. It was his wife who had passed away. And she appeared to her to help as like a kind of like a after the grave kind of thing, to look after her family, and she couldn't leave and all this stuff. So it's an interesting concept in that story.
You know what else is a good one with symbolism? Field of Dreams.
Good one. Real good.
James Earl Jones and
the
other dude.
Kevin
Costner.
You got it.
Sick.
All right, and last one, number 12. Are there any explicit religious themes, Christ figures? Does the film express significant attitudes toward Christ, the clergy, or the church? Does it distort Christianity or present it at its worst? Or does it present it with some insight and or sympathy? Does it recognize the element of personal piety in somebody's life? Piety? There are exceptions. If so, does it approve or disapprove of it? What about Satan, the demons, the occult? Does the film recognize their activity in some way? Is the devil taken seriously? If so, how is he dealt with?
I got 2 movies.
Is prison? Go ahead.
We're gonna say
I can't remember. I was gonna say Prisoners, but I can't remember if that's
Azkaban.
Can't remember if that's the actual name of the movie.
No, it's super obvious. Lord of the Rings and Narnia.
Oh,
those are like 2 of the like that's what they do.
Yeah, essentially, you're right.
So I mean, I kind of feel bad for saying it, but they are there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I would
Harry
say
Potter is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Harry Potter is a Christ figure. I mean,
and Lord Voldemort would be Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, almost any hero's journey type movie, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the concept of the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Any of those like movies are almost always going to have a savior and a villain.
Yeah, I would say any superhero.
Yeah.
Like if not all superhero movies they would be the Christ figure.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is I'll leave that for another episode, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any more.
Mad Max.
Nefarious.
Yeah,
Oh,
Nefarious.
Nefarious. No, Mad Max would not be a good example.
The
It is-
Passion.
Okay.
Is that cheating?
Yes.
Hey, but no, it's not. It's not, because it's just asking what does it say about those things? Is
Yeah.
it,
Right.
does it support? Does it not?
But it no longer makes me feel bad about saying the Lord of the Rings and Narnia.
Passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Parker fell asleep during this one, but
Oh my
Signs.
gosh, you're gonna bring that up again.
Yeah. Signs.
Lord.
Is all about a pastor losing his
See, I didn't
faith,
even
essentially.
get to the point to realize that he was the main character or whatever character it was a pastor.
You said what, 10 minutes in you were
Oh
out?
my gosh. I don't
10 minutes.
like they saw the sign and then I fell asleep. I was in the cornfield and I saw the crop circles and then I woke up the next day.
That's hilarious. Everybody woke up dreaming about the Titanic too.
Got him. All right. That's good. Yeah, I'll definitely post. I'll post probably, or as soon as we get off here, I'll post the hyperlink in the description of the video so people can grab it and read this ebook. Ebook, right? Ebook.
Yeah.
Oh, where the questions came from?
Yeah,
Yep.
Got it.
themselves. And they can start reviewing movies through that, and maybe one day we'll have our own ebook. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be pretty dope.
That'd be good.
Awesome. So if you guys could share our podcast, share an episode, go watch one of the movie reviews and share it to some of your friends, family,
Share the Titanic.
anybody that you want to spark up a conversation with, and then check out the link in the description. Start reviewing movies. What would be really cool is if you got a group of people together and I don't know, like if you were on a Christian college campus and did a
Or not,
did
or
a
not
or
Christian college.
or not
Wait,
Christian
are you
college.
talking to Clay?
I was
right now?
talking to Clay. I was talking to Clay. Or not, but if you maybe go to Taylor or something, get a group of buddies together and go through
Oddly
this
specific.
and watch a movie together, or maybe Revere. If you go to Revere
Yeah.
and you get a group of guys together and review movies through the lens of truth, and you can use these 12 questions. So just a fun little ending here. Do the social media thing, like, subscribe, follow, blah, 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 blah. Or do none of it and just consume the content. We want to be there for you guys and help and, create good conversations, good discourse, and continue on our journeys. All of us are on a journey to, grow closer to Jesus and learn more about him and improve our biblical knowledge. So that's it for today. We will